would like to express my congratulations and appreciation to the organizers of this workshop, which allow us to share and exchange the result of our research once again. As has been mentioned, this paper is made in the framework of the research project of excellence of the University of Huelva, funded by the Ministry of Science and Innovation of the Spain's government. And as we can see in the title, we propose in it a comparative study of some urban and real estate corruption scandals in Spain and France in contemporary times, with repercussions in the public sphere. That is the main point on it. We address them as indicators of broader issues around image of power and the mechanism of legitimation, also as instruments for analyzing the cultural and political values of the societies in which they are developed, and finally the performative capacity of reality. All this with the aim of finding out the role played by these scandals in the processes of historical and social change and the shaping of the ideological, moral and cultural values of the moment. And these ideas have been the basis of our research, as we can see in this slide. As a preliminary question, we would like to raise the relevance of the phenomenon of conversion of the city into an object of business and economic profit in the context of the process of contemporary industrialization and capitalist accumulation, so that its construction, the city, becomes a complex game in which different actors and agents interact under the rules established by the new legal framework, resulting in many cases violation of the law and practices of open corruption. The study of corruption in contemporary urban societies is therefore essential to understand the functioning of the political system and the processes of change and social evolution of the moment. And for us, it's very important what urban history can contribute to this approach. We will therefore also ask what the analysis of these scandals brings to the knowledge of these urban processes. In this occasion, we will focus on the case selected for the significance and relevance in relation with the initial approaches. They are in the slide. And in each case, we will examine different aspects like the actors involved, identity and position play, practices and broken rules, the dynamics of a scandal in the formation of a certain climate of opinion, timing, strategies, evolution, the reaction of social indignation, and finally the effects caused by the scandal. So let's start with this. The first one, the first scandal, is related to the former minister Agustín Antoyantes, one of the most notorious cases of political corruption in mid-19th century in Spain. It was the first time a minister was tried, and the first prominent case of public works scandals. It was held in a special court, Senate, in the exercise of its jurisdictional functions, and with the application of the Penal Code of 1848, in a case of fraud in public procurement. The events took place between 1853 and 1854, during the reign of Isabel II, in the government presided by José Luis Sartorius, Count of San Luis, and Esteban Collantes was accused of defrauding 113,000 stone church for the construction of a road between Madrid and Aranjuez that never came to be realized without contract award, without prior notice of tender, award to the particular Ildefonso Mariano Luque. Two officials were also prosecuted for necessary participation. Juan Bautista Beratarrechea, administrator of the Manzanares River Channel, where the stones were deposited and forgotten, and the General Director of Public Works, José María de Mora. The minister's participation consisted in signing 3 royal orders that allow the hiring and the payment of the material. The complaint was filed 5 years after the events, what is very significant, at the end of 1858 by an official of the Service of Payments named Julian Pardo. Finally, in June 1859, the minister was found not guilty for his lack of willfulness in signing the documents, and only the General Director of Public Works, José María de Mora, was convicted. The process would be reported by the press and has all the ingredients of a political scandal. We can see some notices in the press, Spanish press. The ingredients of the political scandal were the identity and position of the agents involved, the minister Esteban Collantes, a reputed politician of the circle of Isabel II, and also the judges, senators who had been ministers' colleagues in the administration or government, or his political enemies. In addition to this, it's important to emphasize the seriousness and number of offences: fraud in public procurement, fraud and false code as a means of achieving it, at a time where there is a widespread social perception of the corruption of the political system because of clientelism and shabby business. The case can also be seen as an example of the affirmation of political elites, because the process didn't mean the end of Esteban Collantes' political career or his political stigmatization. He continued to hold important positions in the administration of and returned as a minister under Alfonso López. Well, another scandal of great political significance, in which the press played an important role and also involved an important popular mobilization against corruption, was the case of the Marquis of Cabriñana, developed in 1895 in the city of Madrid, capital of the state and center of the Spanish political life in the 19th century, the late 19th century, and scene of partisan fights and unprecedented popular mobilization. As we could see yesterday, the case begins with a letter for the Marquis, published on October 1893 in the newspaper El Imparcial, where he reports urban irregularities by the city council related to the implementation of the Madrid expansion plan, and the process were expanding until culminating on a big popular mobilization on December, a mobilization of rejection of the government with a defense of a moralization of the political system. I won't go into details on this case, as we saw it yesterday, but we can say that this is a new case of the politicization of scandals and their ability to cause crises and changes in the system, as well as being a reflection of current ideas and values about corruption. Well, looking for comparative elements with France, we resort to the cases of political scandals that had been studied in the city of Marseille at the end of the 19th century. This is a period in the city of great political tensions between moderate Republicans, radical and socialists. An accusation of corruption will be a very powerful weapon against the political opponent seeking the discredit. Since the end of the 19th century, there have been cases of accusation of fraud, untruth, misappropriation of public funds for personal purpose, and irregularities in the award of contracts for services. The most famous case of the period is the affair Charabel, which takes place over 6 months between June and December 1886. Frédéric Carabel is an engineer who, after a cholera epidemic, introduced a base water management system to clean up the city and offer bribes to the most influential members of the municipal council. The deputy mayor, Monsieur Lepere, and other 3 Republican councillors accept bribes, but they are denounced by another radical councillor. At the end of the process, the Aix-en-Provence Court found guilty only the engineer and Monsieur Lepere and another councillor. The most interesting aspect we can see in this case is that during the process, the press will make constant reference to past corruption cases, and this will create a social imaginary about the growing bad reputation of the city of Marseille, as we can see in this article in the Loire, the regional newspaper Le Loire. This will imply a translation of the phenomenon of the denunciation of individual responsibilities toward criticism of the political system and the city as a whole, in a clear phenomenon of what we might call the territorialization of anti-corruption discourse. We reach the 20th century, and for this period we have selected 2 case studies from similar contexts and dates, which allow us to carry out a comparative study of relevant results. The Sofico case in Spain and the one Lopen and Mobilier in Marseille. We begin with the Sofico case. This acronym means Sociedad Financiera Internacional de Construcciones, International Building Finance Company. And this case is the great property scandal in the end of the Franquism, which was widely reported in the press and in which military and regime officials were involved. A case that couldn't be explained without the configuration of power in the form of a network interest and without the development politics initiated in the 1960s, the tourist boom and the land speculation that the Spanish coastal soil experienced since then. The tourist boom attracted the attention of many businessmen like Eugenio Pedro Salmerón, creator of the idea and founder of Sofico in 1962, which eventually became this society became a holding company. Pedro was a businessman from Almería who, during the Civil War, worked for Colonel José Uría, head of Franco's secret services, and later became involved in various sport and construction businesses. He became one of those people who was close to the regime, with contacts in high position in the army and government officials. Some of these contacts became members of the company's board of directors, such as Luis Nieto Antúnez, honorary president, who held various political positions and was also the brother of the minister Pedro Nieto Antúnez, Lieutenant Generals Rafael García Baliño and Rafael Cabanillas Prosper, Juan Lozada Pérez, colonel of the Civil War, the president of the Guadalajara audience and director of the Bank of Valencia, Segismundo Martín Laborda, José María López Peregrín, employed and representing the Ministry of Finance, and others. So we can see with these captures that the company certainly had a close relationship with the army, administration, and political and judicial power. Well, the goal of the business network was to build, sell, and rent apartments on the Costa del Sol, especially in Estepona, and the formula was with an aggressive advertising campaign in all media was as simple as suggested: to seduce small investors by promising profit of 10% and after 12%, far above what banks offer. In the early years, business was running very well, investors received the promised profits, the company grew and received all kinds of awards, such as the Silver Medal for Tourism awarded by to Peiro by the Ministry of Information and Tourism in 1969. Initially, the company sold already built and finished apartments, then it sold on the floor plan, and even before disposing the plots, finally buying fictitious apartments. And what looked like a good deal and version for investors was really a pyramid scheme. The high returns generated a vicious circle where the income for the sale of future apartments and the rents was used to pay the interest, finally causing the system to collapse. It was a totally unviable system, and really it died for its own success. In June 1974, Sofico began to default on its payment obligation, and the press began to report it. The company defends itself, but on 23 November, the creditor Francisco Borreguero Gil applied to a Madrid court for the company's bankruptcy. And between 13 November and 11 December, the different companies of the network declared the suspension of payments. They have been sold for a total of 30 billion of pesetas, involving 25,000 investors, 4,000 whom were foreign. In 1987, the Audiencia General sentenced Eugenio Pedro to 9 years in prison for false quote and fraud, and his son Eugenio Pedro Brillas 2 years and 4 months as accomplice, although neither of them even went to prison. They appealed the sentence and didn't pay any compensation to the injured parties. All the high-ranking officials of the regime who were part of the company were released from any responsibility finally. Initially, the case was widely reported in the Spanish press, although it was soon silenced by the censorship, as denounced at the Bastin article of the science published in the magazine Cuadernos de Ruedo Ibérico, a well-known anti-Franquist magazine linked to the Spanish exile. Okay, this is our last case. Finally, we are going to mention or to comment the last case we have selection in this paper. This case, l'affaire de la vente immobilière in Marseille, very some similarities, particularly in the type of practices denounced. It's a case which took place in Marseille between 1964 and 1966. The scandal broke out in July 1964 when the manager of the construction company, Jacques Marie and Serge Bertoine, were arrested and charged with corruption of officials and infringement of company law. The company was suspected of having demanded from its clients undue sums in cash and without justification over the selling price. All this after a complaint in February by a Pied-Noir, Gilbert Bellini, in the context of a strong demand of housing, expansion of construction companies, and legal complexity in the construction sector in France. The local and national press revealed suspicions of bribes received by agents of the Ministry of Construction and the Urban Planning Service of the city of Marseille, a total of 9. And after the process, only 4 real estate managers and 2 million ranking officials were convicted. And as we can see, and as we have seen in the case of Urban in Marseille at the end of the 19th century, there is again, we can see in these notices, there is again, due to the amplifying action of the press, a shift from the accusation of individual corruption to the city as a whole. Well, to finish, and after the presentation of these cases, we can expose some preliminary conclusions and lines to work to be developed. Firstly, we can deduce a clear correlation of these scandals with the foundation of the political authority and its mechanism of legitimation, as well as the role of public image and reputation in the perpetuation of decline of political elites. All this has been seen in the constant political use of accusation and scandal and its reflection in the media, especially the press. Secondly, we want to know the existence of a clear rules defining the concept of corruption and the limits of tolerance toward it as a result of the process of administrative standardization in the formation of the liberal state and the institutionalization of urban since the 19th century. Also, the existence of a clear form of public opinion through the press, although less influential in times of dictatorial regimes, which will echo political scandals, channeling social indignation and causing crises and political changes of varying importance. It's very similar to the revealing character of corruption scandals linked to urban activity, in many cases triggering the start of the accusation for the clear significance that they have, in fact, reprehensible and reportable, and the power to cause major changes in the political system. And finally, we want to comment the need to continue collecting and analyzing other cases during the period in order to further elaborate more substantive conclusion. And that's all, and thank you for your attention.